Hey everyone, this is Renee Frey from Talent to Q, and you're listening to the Conscious Professional Podcast. More people than ever want to be happy in their career and personal life, but they're going about it all wrong. I'm here to set the record straight and emphasize the importance of prioritizing your mindset. I'm thrilled you're here. My family and I had an unforgettable time with our friends who live on Balsam Lake. It's one of those places where every visit is a blast, no matter what. And this past weekend was especially memorable as it marked the last one before my kids head back to school. And oh boy, did we make the most of it. The weather was absolutely perfect, hot and sunny, just the way you want it when you're spending time on the lake. My kids went tubing, and I just loved seeing the pure joy on their faces. There's always smiles when you're tubing behind a boat. There's nothing like watching them have so much fun. It's the kind of thing that just fills my heart. We also had the chance to grab breakfast at Fiddlehead Kitchen, and it was amazing. It's run by these two gals, and we kicked off the meal with the incredible cinnamon roll that was simply to die for. And after breakfast, we hung out on their patio because our friends were catching up with some other folks. And that's when I ended up meeting a canine police officer from Riverside County, California. I was immediately intrigued, especially when he started talking about his canine partner, Chewy. Chewy is trained to sniff out electronic scents, things like cell phones, USB drives, and hard drives, which are critical in cases involving child exploitation. Can you believe that? A dog trained to sniff out electronics. I was blown away. He even gave me one of Chewy's trading cards, and he mentioned that Chewy has his own Instagram page with 12,000 followers. How cool is that? Of course, having two daughters, I had to ask, what do we as parents need to be aware of to keep our kids safe online? And he's stressed. He's like, first, keep them offline, but he knows that's impossible. He said parents should be able to see everything their kids are doing on social media because there's so much out there that they shouldn't be exposed to. And it was a fascinating conversation that I'm still thinking about, especially how incredible it is that a dog can detect electronic storage devices. Now, shifting gears to today's episode, which is all about midlife crisis, I experienced mine earlier than most. I was just 29 years old. I'd been married for 4 years, didn't have any kids, and only 6 years into my career. And that's much younger than the typical age range for a midlife crisis, which usually hits people around 40 and 50 years old. But there I was facing this huge turning point in my life, and it all started because my husband and I were talking about starting a family. The idea of bringing kids into this world made me realize that I needed to clean up my relationship with food. Growing up, I was taught not to waste food and to always clean my plate. A mentality that, looking back, was so damaging. It ingrained in me a scarcity mindset that led to disordered eating. In high school, I struggled with anorexia, and by the time I was in college, my weight was constantly yo-yoing. I knew if I was going to raise kids, I had to get my act together so I wouldn't pass down these unhealthy beliefs to them. So I shared this with my husband, Dustin, and he agreed I needed to get this figured out. So at age 29, I started seeing a psychologist to help me work through my issues with food and my unhealthy patterns that I had developed. I was seeing this shrink every week, and then one day during one of the sessions, I had a massive breakthrough. It hit me like a ton of bricks falling out of the sky. I was working 70 plus hours a week, making over $250,000, pushing myself to the brink, all for the acceptance of my absent father. The The realization crushed me. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, questioning everything. Was my life up to this point a joke? Why was I working this hard? Did I even like my job? What was I going to do now? I was completely devastated. This moment threw me into a period of intense self-reflection. Growing up, my dad was an alcoholic and he was never around. When he was, he didn't pay any attention to me. He missed all of my big moments, my school events, my graduations, even my wedding. And as an adult, I was always the one who had to reach out to him if I wanted to talk to him or see him. My relationship with him has always entirely been on my terms. He's rarely called or visited. And I had carried a lot of grudges for years, but eventually I came to terms with it and learned to let them all go. And I learned to love him unconditionally because in the end, his absence shaped who I am today. And I'm proud of the person I have become. So when I had this crisis, I had to dig deep and reevaluate everything. Was I living my life for me, or was I still chasing the approval of my dad? It felt like the ground had been ripped out from underneath me. But as painful as it was exactly what I needed to start living for myself instead of for someone else's acceptance. Dustin was an incredible support during this time, and he's my biggest cheerleader. With his help, I started to piece my life back together slowly but surely and began figuring out what I truly wanted out of life. And that's where we're heading today. We'll explore what it's like to go through a midlife crisis, how to navigate those overwhelming emotions, and ultimately how to come out on the other side stronger and more in tune with who you really are. So what the hell is a midlife crisis? It's when you're like me and you experience a period of emotional turmoil and self-reflection that most of the time occurs in middle adulthood. Like I said earlier, between the ages of 40 and 60. Although it can happen earlier or later, like in my case. And during this time, you might feel a deep sense of dissatisfaction or anxiety about your life achievements, maybe about your relationships or the passing of time because we're aging. And this crisis often prompts people to reevaluate their life choices, goals, and identity, just like I had to do. You might start questioning your life choices, questioning your career, relationships, what you're doing in life, wondering if you've made the right decisions in your life. You may have had a desire for change, like making significant changes in your life, like wanting to change a career, end a long-term relationship, or take up new hobbies or interests. You may feel a greater awareness that you're aging and you feel like you're running out of time to achieve personal goals. Or you might have a feeling of regretting something you didn't go after or something you didn't do in the past. All of this can lead to emotional turmoil as you grapple with that gap between your expectations for your life and your current reality. Sometimes people get impulsive. They buy a sports car or they undergo plastic surgery in an attempt to stay young. The good news is emotions can't kill us. And this midlife crisis is not permanent. Now, if you have impulsive behavior, some of those choices may end up to be permanent, but the emotional state of a midlife crisis isn't permanent. We control our thoughts and our beliefs, and that means we can make a new decision to change them at any time. What this time in your life can do is similar to what it did for me. It gave me an opportunity for personal growth and reevaluation of my life priorities. And when I did this, I came out on the other side so much more fulfilled. My life is extraordinary. I don't even want to think about the life I'd be living if this midlife crisis didn't happen. The life I'm leading now, I know is in the direction I want. I chose it for me, which is so empowering. I'm now leading an authentic life that I truly desired. Now, if you feel like this is you, someone who's maybe in a time in your life when you're questioning everything, or maybe even just one thing like, do I really have a passion for the job I'm in? First, you gotta give yourself grace. Understand it is completely normal. The emotions you're feeling are a natural part of life for many people. Acknowledging your emotions is the first step towards addressing them. Don't ignore or suppress your feelings. Allow yourself to explore why you're feeling this way and recognize that these emotions are valid. In our culture, most of us are taught to stuff our feelings. That's what I was taught. It's insane to stuff your feelings. Your feelings are telling you something. I truly believe that our feelings are our soul's way of saying something's up, and that's when we need to wake up and pay attention to them the most. Once you acknowledge and accept your feelings, you'll want some support like I had. Thankfully, I had my shrink and my husband, Dustin, to help me work through this crazy time. I was able to reflect on my values, my goals, and what truly mattered to me. Someone has said the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions you ask yourself. Grab a journal and start asking yourself some really damn good questions. You may not have any answers that pop up in the moment, but they will come up to the surface eventually, maybe in a couple days. Learn to listen to your inner voice, the positive one, not the negative one. Let the negative voice and their comments just pass on by, pass on through. The simple act of writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you clarify your emotions and guide you toward what changes you might need to make. Be completely honest with yourself. No one needs to read your journal. This is the time that you can get really intimate with yourself and have true, authentic discoveries about what you want out of your life. You may need to reassess your career if it's headed in the right direction for you. You might need to reassess your marriage or your relationships. Coming from an ultimate optimist like I am, you gotta regularly remind yourself of the positive aspects in your life. Focusing on what you're grateful for can help shift your perspective from what's lacking to what's fulfilling. Avoid making impulsive decisions at all costs. Sometimes it can be tempting to make big changes quickly, but take the time to consider the long-term impact of your decisions before you make one. You can always ask a trusted friend or family member for their perspective too. If you've been following me a while, you know I'm all about mindset and changing our beliefs. I challenge you to change your belief about a midlife crisis and change your perspective to believing that it's not a midlife crisis and merely a midlife check-in. See this period of time in your life as a chance for self-discovery, a chance to recalibrate, a chance to go in a new direction. Remove the word crisis because every problem has a solution, and I know there's nothing you can't handle. This midlife check-in can be a catalyst for personal growth, helping you to realign your life with your true self and aspirations, which is magnificent. You know my favorite phrase, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Embrace the uncertainty as an opportunity to discover new paths and experiences that can lead to a more fulfilling life. By taking thoughtful, measured approach, a midlife crisis can be transformed from a period of turmoil into a powerful opportunity for a midlife check-in and create positive change and personal development, and know you're on the very path you're supposed to be on. So the key points from today's episode are: listen to your inner voice and journal freely to realign your mindset. View your midlife crisis as more of a midlife check-in to take the pressure off of yourself. Always be open and willing to feel the emotions you're having. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Share this episode with someone you love and go make one change to be better today than you were yesterday. Live your life with intention. I believe in you. I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible, so if you would, please hit the follow button so we can grow our community of conscious professionals. Whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find the button at the top of the page. See you next week, everyone. Cheers.